Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Bible Views on Today's News. I'm your host, Jack Ward. And something we wanted to get into real quickly here. We don't want to take a lot of your time, but the UN could take over ICANN and the Internet on October 1st. Well, what is ICANN? That's kind of strange, isn't it? The UN and ICANN, ICANN. Well, that is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. And right now the U.S. has administration over the Internet, since we're the inventors of it, or if you believe it, Al Gore. That's a joke. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, is under U.S. administration right now. But the United Nations could take control on October 1st. The United Nations International Telecommunications Union, ITU, it says here in this article that while the administration and its defenders have denied that the UN will have authority over ICANN, the Wall Street Journal's L. Gordon Krovitz points out that ICANN will need to be run by a state agency in order to retain its antitrust exemption, which makes it almost certainly that the UN will step in and take control. Now, what will this mean on October 1st when the UN takes control of the Internet? Well, no one really knows. We know that countries like China and Russia and the Middle Eastern nations and Islamic nations would love to get control of the Internet so they can suppress the truth. And the Internet has been one of the great methods and ways of getting the truth out. And Christian ministries and ministries that tell the truth about Islam and tell the truth about government corruption and tell the truth about these despots in these third world countries and people that can get the truth, and ministries that tell the truth. We just don't know what the effect will be. If China and Russia, who are urging passing of this to the power of the Internet, the control of the Internet to the UN, you know why they want that. They want to suppress the truth and anybody that would dissent from their regimes. And you know Iran wants this so that they can keep people from saying anything offensive about Islam, which, you know, it's getting to the point where you can't say anything about anybody. The LGBT community in the United States would love to suppress the truth about the LGBT agenda. And they would love to suppress that truth. And people in this country would love to suppress the truth about Islam for some reason. People are just blinded, as the Bible tells us in the last days, and that people would believe a lie instead of the truth. And boy, we're seeing that happening today more than ever. I have a clip here that I want to play about this very thing.
Supposedly giving up Internet stewardship, and it's looking like it might end up in the United Nations' hand, which people are saying now, how could have this administration been so naive to the possibility that that could in fact happen? And then Congress still has an opportunity, I understand, to stop that transfer by pushing that off, and I'm hopeful that that will happen. Wall Street Journal wrote a very good article this week about that, and that Congress could still extend the ban on the Obama administration giving up protection of the Internet. And obviously some of the things that have taken place in the last couple of weeks about the fact that the UN could end up with control over this, Congress has to do what they can to stop giving up this. And even as we discussed earlier, the possibility, according to the Jerusalem Post, that Barack Obama might have interest in becoming the UN Secretary General after Ban Ki-moon leaves in December and after Obama leaves his office in January 2017.
Well, I mean, Eric, we have huge interest in preserving the Internet. We all have ministries with websites that we don't want censored, to put it mildly, even taxed, possibly.
Almost every time I speak, somehow this comes up about how the human rights commissions are out there to try to intimidate us into silence and to not speak up. And now we're faced with Eric Schmidt and Google and what they're doing, talking about a hate hate speech spell checker, it'll be somebody else's definition of what is hate speech. And anyone who disagrees, for example, with the LGBT community or with the Islamic doctrine, those kind of things, will be looked at as hate speech. And that's why this is important to us and something that Christians should take note of. Things may change very radically and very quickly.
Well, let me play just a quick soundbite. This is Megyn Kelly discussing this on Fox News.
Well, right now, no one country or governing body runs the internet, and that freedom has helped the web grow to the worldwide force that it is today, actually being used in some instances to spur some democratic movements. But that could soon change in a big way. A UN summit next week could put a little-known United Nations agency in charge of the World Wide Web. And some countries like China, Russia, and Iran that already have tight controls on cyberspace are now actively lobbying for new global rules that could allow them to, for example, eavesdrop at will or censor content. Brooke Goldstein is the director of the Lawfare Project, and she's with me now. So, Brooke, I mean, it's no big surprise that China and Iran, and Russia for that matter, would love to control the internet, but it is kind of a surprise that they're going to have some conference with the UN in Dubai next week. We're attending, and this is going to be the topic?
Look, looking at the history of the United Nations and how it's tried over the past 10 years to stifle free speech, especially speech on the internet that's deemed offensive to Islam, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, we've seen a coordinated effort by the Arab League, by the United Nations, and with countries like China, Iran, and Russia try and wrestle control of the internet from the nonprofits, from the engineering organizations that provide the regulations, that provide the protocol into government hand, and the United Nations is now going to legitimize this.
What they already cracked down, they censor the internet already to some extent in their respective countries. So how much more control do they want?
Well, they want legitimacy and they want coordinated control. And what this is going to result in, people are predicting at the very worst, is a fractured internet, is an internet that changes depending on whose borders you're in. What it's also going to result in are high levels of taxes for internet providers. So US-based companies like Google or Yahoo who want to provide their services to Russia, to China, are going to be taxed. And that's going to be an incentive not to provide it. It's also going to create a very highly coordinated censorship, something that we've never seen before. And again, it's going to be legitimized by the United Nations. And while you think the Obama administration would stand firm against this type of censorship, what we're seeing are qualified condemnations of it. We have, for example, Terry Kramer, who's the United States State Department spokesperson who's going to be representing us at this Dubai conference. He said, quote, "We don't want to preach to others." Well, the contrary is true. We have the responsibility to preach to others what free speech regulations are not allowed on the internet.
I hope that little soundbite, that it portrayed some of the seriousness of this issue.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That was so well done, and she couldn't have put it better.
Yeah.
That's Bill Caney, a White House correspondent, that last voice there, and Jan Markell is the lady. That's her radio program that I got that clip from. Very interesting, as you heard the Fox News report, Megyn Kelly's program, about what's going to happen. That's, they said last week, but I think it's this week as we talk that this meeting is going on in Dubai, and who knows how it's going to affect free speech online. And I think all this plays into the final days of one world government where the Antichrist will have control over all thought and all information. He's going to have a one world order with a mark of the beast coming up at the midpoint of the tribulation of 7 years. And we're going to see a limit definitely then of free speech. And this is just the beginning. This is Bible prophecy being fulfilled before our very eyes and ears. Now, Google is developing tools to suppress online speech to protect the feelings, so people's feelings don't get hurt. This is an article I saw. Jigsaw, a small subsidiary of Google, is working on multiple technology projects that would work to censor speech on the internet and increase monitoring of its users, according to an article published on Wired. Under a veil of protecting people from abuse by authoritarian regimes and online trolls, Jigsaw founder and President Jared Cohen is releasing a set of tools known as Conversation AI, artificial intelligence, Conversation AI. I want to use the best technology we have at our disposal to begin to take on trolling and other nefarious tactics that give hostile voices disproportionate weight. We will do everything we can to level the playing field, said Cohen. Jigsaw argues that online trolls bully people into self-censoring their views and that online speech must be moderated to ensure that nobody is silenced. Conversation AI will use machine learning techniques to pick up on harassment and abuse faster than any human moderator possibly could. According to Google, the filter has a 92% success rate at detecting so-called abusive messages in concurrence with a panel of humans, producing a false positive only 10% of the time. The major issue with such a tool is the possibly unintended consequences automatic detection will create. Yeah, believe me. Andy Greenberg, writing in Wired, highlighted that throwing out well-intentioned speech that resembles harassment could be a blow to exactly the open civil society Jigsaw has vowed to protect. Yeah, right. They're not trying to protect open society. They're trying to control people. You know, the right, conservatism dominates the internet and most of the talk shows. The conservative side, the left, the liberal side doesn't have that many programs out there and news. Well, they got all the news sites, NBC, MSNBC, CBS, and CNN, and all them, but they don't have a lot of they call trolls. That is, people out there that are conservative and call LGBT sin and call Islam a false religion, and you know, they don't want those people out there. They call them trolls, and they call that hate speech. So that anything we say against the LGBT community and calling it a sin is going to be monitored. Definitely, you know that these Google is going to monitor that. So we got Google trying to censor free speech. We've got the internet going into the hands of the UN, backed by countries that limits free speech. So what does that tell you? In the next few months, free speech will be limited on the internet, and programs like this may just be censored away. And that's what we're up against, people. But it's the Antichrist agenda. It's coming before our eyes. Everything is not falling apart. It's falling into place. Biblical prophecy will be completed 100% correct according to the Word of God. The Word of God is, let God be true and every man a liar. The Word of God is truth. And every word of prophecy will be fulfilled exactly the way the Bible has laid it out. And believe me, Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, the Gog-Magog war is right on the horizon. Russia, Iran, Turkey, Syria, all these nations, well, not exactly Syria, but Syria will be involved, and Libya and a couple of nations from Africa are going to attack Israel. That's right around the corner. We talk about that a lot. And one of these programs will get into that in greater detail. But things are falling into place, not falling apart. You trust in the Lord and look to Him, because Jesus is returning soon. And when they try to take our free speech away, we'll speak anyway. We'll find a way to get the gospel message and the truth out to the people of the world. There's many things that God is going to use and has used, and we need to use. The internet has been a great tool for the advancement of the gospel. It's been a great tool for evil also, as pornography is the number one item on the internet, sad to say. But we have to understand and be aware that things can be used for evil. The devil always takes what is a good thing and turns it into evil. So if he can, and we have to limit that, and we have to use it. Just because there's evil on the internet doesn't mean we can't use it for good, as a tool for good. Just like television is a tool for good or evil. It's according to what you want to watch on it. So we just have to use it while we can, as long as we can, to get the gospel of Jesus Christ out and the truth of the gospel. We have to do this as long as we can. Well, I'm not going to keep you very long today. Just wanted to get that out. Maybe by keeping a shorter program, I can do more programs for you. At least that's the goal here that we attempt to, we're going to try to get across to you. More information as quickly as possible. Well, we are glad that you stopped by. This is Jack Ward for Bible Views on Today's News.